Next topic is corporate social responsibility. First of all, before we start doing CSR, CSR is a frequently tested governance topic. Governance is very important. Risk management is very important, CIA Part 1. And this is, of course, one of the most tested topics in governance. So if you could understand the terms well, you master this topic, it will increase your chances of success on your CIA Part 1 exam. All right. What is corporate social responsibility? About 100 years ago, organizations were expected to just make profit, run business efficiently and effectively, just for the shareholders. But with the passage of time, people realized that businesses do not serve the shareholders only. Businesses serve customers. Businesses serve society. Businesses serve suppliers, bankers, employees, society at large. So it is not that the business just needs to make profit. It has to be socially responsible. It has to discharge certain obligations toward the environment, towards the society, towards other stakeholders, not just shareholders. In other words, we have to take a larger outlook. So basically, corporate social responsibility, CSR, is that stakeholders, when we say stakeholders, it means customers, suppliers, bankers, fund providers, society, employees, managers, the people who are directly or indirectly affected by what a business does, not just shareholders. So stakeholders, the people who are connected with the business, they increasingly expect organization to accept some responsibility. Not just profit only. Organization needs to meet the requirement of environmental legislations. Do something for the betterment of the environment. Do something for the betterment of society. Not just make profits for the shareholders. So business should engage in serving the interest of stakeholders, not just shareholders. This is the broader view now. Businesses do not just serve the interest of the owners, it is also responsible to take care of the environment, society, customers, vendors, suppliers, bankers, fund providers, employees, etc. All these people who are connected. And finally, a business is expected to report how well you have served the environment, what you have done over the last year for the society, what you have done for your employee. Right? That has to be reported. So three things are there. Manage their effects on the environment and society. How do you affect environment and society? Engage stakeholders in their efforts. What do you do for your other stakeholders? And finally, report what you have done over the period. That's what CSR is all about. So basically, corporate social responsibility is a response to stakeholders' expectations. Stakeholders expect businesses to become socially responsible, not just become a money-making machine. Business is not viewed as a money-making machine. Business is a part of a social structure. It's a part of social fabric. Business will have to behave responsibly. It will have to serve the needs of others, not just shareholders. This is social responsibility. Then sustainable development. This is an important point I would like to discuss a little. Sustainable development means we cut trees for furniture, for logging, for constructing homes. Sustainable development means, yes, develop, use, cut trees. But when you cut 5 trees, you plant 20 more. This is sustainability. Sustainability is meeting your needs, but without compromising the needs of the future generations. Fulfill your needs what you need to, but do not put the needs of the future generation in danger. So use up the resources, yes, cut trees, but plant 20 more. So meet the needs of the present, but without compromising the needs, the ability of the future generation to meet their needs. This is called sustainable development. So corporate social responsibility, if your business involves using timber, cut timber but plant 20 trees more. This is sustainability. And then again, A business should become a responsible citizen. A business is not a money-making machine. It's not a box that makes money. Business is responsible just as you, me, or you as a responsible citizen in a society. That's the idea of corporate social responsibility. Not just money. Take care of the society. Take care of the environment. Take care of your employees. Take care of the people around you. So there are certain standards that define what is corporate social responsibility. There is a standard ISO 26000 issued by the International Standard Organization. Also, IIA, the Institute of Internal Auditors, have also defined what is corporate social responsibility. You don't need to learn the definition, but you just need to be aware just need to read what CSR means in ISO 26000 and is Institute of Internal Auditors text. So as per the ISO 26000, I'm just going to read. You don't need to learn it. So what is corporate social responsibility as per ISO 26000? It's the willingness of a business or an organization to incorporate social and environmental consideration. Consider about society, about environment in decision making, right? It's the willingness of businesses to consider the social and environmental needs and not just money. I'm just modifying the statement to make it you understandable. So the willingness of an organization to incorporate social and environmental consideration in decision making and become accountable, responsible for the impacts of the decisions and activities on the society and the environment. So you have to be responsible, you have to be willing to consider the social and environmental needs, not just money, 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 money. That is the ISO 26000 for you. The Institute of Internal Auditors, it has also defined corporate social responsibility in a more elaborate way. What is CSR? As per IIA, Institute of Internal Auditors, is the way firms integrate social, environmental, economic concerns into their values, culture and decision making, strategy, operation. So the way firms integrate social, environmental, economic concerns into their values, culture, decision making, strategy and operation in a transparent and accountable manner, and thereby establish a better practices within the firm, create wealth, of course, for the shareholders, and improve society. Not just make money, but improve society. You just need to read it. You don't need to memorize it as it is. So just a quick read would be sufficient. You need to have the feel of what CSR rather than just memorizing the words. As per the business ethics scholar Archie B. Carroll, he has identified 4 responsibilities a firm must fulfill to be called socially responsible. Whether FTC is socially responsible, let us test whether FTC is socially responsible or not. So this scholar has given 4 responsibilities that a firm must fulfill if we need to consider it as a responsible organization. First, a business must generate sufficient profits. Is FTC profitable? Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, FTC is profitable. FTC is making profit. Good return on investment. Okay, pass. All right, let's see. Are we socially responsible? Legal responsibility. Do we obey laws? Yes, I think I do. Do I obey local and global laws? Well, you are the better judge. Ethical responsibility. Do we follow ethics in our business dealings? I think I do. Do we cheat? I think I don't. So ethical responsibility in the local and global context, we behave ethically as what people expect us to behave. So are we ethically responsible? Yes. Are we legally responsible? Yes. Are we discharging economic responsibility? Are we making profit? Yes. And the most important one, philanthropic responsibility. Do FTC donate to some charitable cause? Yes. We take many students who cannot afford to study CMA. Many students study totally cost-free at FTC, those who cannot afford. So this is philanthropic responsibility, that business also donates, gives charities, becomes a good corporate citizen. So these are the 4 responsibilities. If a business is fulfilling all these 4 responsibilities, then we can say that a business is following responsibilities. The business is a responsible entity, a responsible citizen. We are discharging our corporate social responsibility. All right. Now, despite all this blah, 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 corporate social responsibility is very important, everybody should. CSR is largely a voluntary practice. No one can ask FTC to behave ethically. No one can force us to donate. No one can force us to take students on scholarship, free of cost training. That is the reason the corporate social responsibility is largely a voluntary practice. No one forces you. It is entirely up to you. It's entirely up to your decision. Because corporate social responsibility is not law. So companies are not required to disclose their CSR performance, how well you have contributed to the society or to the environment. We are not responsible for that. So there is no law that requires us to report CSR, right? It's totally up to the organization what they want to disclose in their corporate social responsibility reporting. Yes, some companies might be required in some jurisdictions, in some countries. They are legally required to report a CSR report, but it is in some countries, in some jurisdictions, but in most of the countries, CSR is largely, mind the word, is largely voluntarily. In some countries, in some jurisdictions, yes, it might be needed. All right, so what framework do we have? CSR frameworks. There are 2 major frameworks for CSR implementation. One is the Global Reporting Initiative, and other is the ISO 26000. Little bit of Global Reporting Initiative. This Global Reporting Initiative, this framework was specifically designed to provide you guidance on measuring your CSR performance, how well you have performed socially, how responsible have you been in conducting your business. So Global Reporting Initiative basically provides you a guidance on how to measure the CSR performance, right? Then ISO 26000, International Standard Organization 26000, it emphasizes how to implement and manage corporate social responsibility initiatives. So these are the 2 major frameworks. And then there is another certification, ISO 14000. This standard gives a criteria for certification of environmental management system. So if a company is ISO 14000 certified, the benefit of ISO 14000 certification is that such company where ISO 14000 has been implemented, this company will have a good waste management system. Cost of production would be lower. It's a specific system designed for manufacturing firms. Energy consumption would be lower. The distribution cost of materials, the goods that you produce, the cost would become lower. These are specific ways that are tested for an organization before it is given ISO 14000 certification. And this certification will give a good image to the society, to the regulators, to the customers, to the public. Now, next is responsibility of the corporate social. Who is responsible for CSR? The board of directors, the most powerful entity in an organization, it is responsible for overseeing CSR. How effective is CSR working? How effective is the system of risk management? How effective is the system of internal control processes? You are already aware. Board is responsible for overseeing governance, risk management, and control processes. This is the job of the board of directors. They do not design CSR. They do not implement the CSR. They oversee the design. They oversee the implementation, right? What is the management responsibility? Management is responsible for drafting, designing, implementation, maintenance of CSR system. Management is responsible for designing, drafting, implementing a system of CSR. Management is responsible for establishing what CSR wants to achieve environmentally, socially, for employee sides, from customers, from vendors, from bankers. That's their job. What is our role? That is the most important thing. We internal auditors, what our role is: evaluate, discuss, review, report, recommend, not design, not draft, not implement. So our role as internal auditors is for evaluating whether the system of internal controls is working effectively. So internal auditors, as internal auditors, we are responsible for evaluating whether controls over CSR are adequate to achieve the CSR objectives. And lastly, all employees, they are responsible for the success of corporate social responsibility initiatives wherever they are working within the organization. So their role is to contribute to the success of CSR. Next, we have the CSR strategies. Falling are the 4 alternative strategies of corporate social responsibility. The first is reaction. Companies do not take any responsibility. They refuse to take responsibility. Management says we are responsible only for the shareholders. It is not our responsibility to take care of the environment or the society or the customers. Our responsibility is only towards the shareholders. This is a very narrow approach, and of course not something that the people would like. So in such situation, organizations refuse to take any responsibility. This is a very narrow approach, of course not recommended in current circumstances and where the global competition is very. Next is defense. This is the next step. You can say this is the first stage where organization refuses to take any responsibility towards environment, towards society. Just money, 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 money. Next, defensive strategy. If anyone files a case against you in the court of law for damaging the environment or for not contributing toward the society, we use legal actions to avoid any additional responsibilities. We are totally closed. Here we have total closure. We take no responsibility at all. In defensive, we take legal actions. We use just public relations to avoid any further responsibility. We are just defensive. We are not ready to, we will accept something, but we remain in a situation where we say no, we are not responsible. We might take a legal cover, but we are not. Like for example, animal testing. I would like to explain this second point. Testing of drugs on animal, it is allowed in India, Pakistan and Afghanistan, of course. So there is a court case against you against animal testing. You take legal defense that in Pakistan, law does not prohibit testing of medicine on animals. So you use legal cover to defend yourself. You use legal cover to avoid any additional responsibility. Next strategy is accommodation. Yes, here you become little responsible. You are willing to take on additional responsibilities, but only when there is a pressure. This is accommodation, that you are ready to take responsibility, but only when there is a pressure. And the last one, which is the best one, is proaction. You take such initiatives to avoid any future repercussions. So reaction means you refuse to take any responsibility. Closed mind. You think you are not responsible for the society or environment. Defensive, you take legal cover to protect yourself. Accommodation, you are ready to take responsibility, but only when there is a danda, there is a pressure. And proaction, this is the best approach in current circumstances. Organization takes proactive decisions, goes one step ahead. Organization take initiatives to implement CSR so that we can set ourselves as an example for others to follow. These are the 4 strategies. Next, what are the risks if you do not become socially responsible? If you dump waste in rivers, if you discharge poisonous gases into the atmosphere, if the working conditions are so bad that there are 15 to 18 accidents every year, if you are not socially responsible, what are the risks? Loss of reputation. You will have a bad name in the market. Your products might be viewed negatively. There is a risk that you may not follow the law, environmental laws, health and safety laws. This non-compliance would result in lawsuits, cases against you in the court of law. You may have to pay fines. Your management might be imprisoned, or maybe in a very serious situation, your business might be closed. So, not being socially responsible, loss of reputation, legal cases, operational failures. If you do not follow the environmental laws, there could be problems in running the business. Your operations, processes, systems can fail. If you do not behave in a socially responsible way, your company might face decline in the share price. The recent example is regarding a German car manufacturer, Volkswagen. This company was involved in cheating the emission levels in its cars, cheated the lawmakers. Eventually, the case was taken up in the US and the company has been fined billions of dollars. Its price has fallen drastically in the stock market. Another example, about 8 and 9 years ago, there was an oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico. British Petroleum, who was responsible for this oil spillage, being socially irresponsible, had to pay billions of dollars fine to the regulators and had to pay a lot of money in cleaning the mess, right? And those organizations who do not behave socially in a socially responsible way, employees do not see you favorably. Employees would not work in a company that is socially irresponsible. People will avoid such organization. And eventually, the worst case scenario, your sales decline, your customers stop buying your products or services. They sometimes boycott, a bad publicity on the media. The business is gone. So these are the risks. That's why corporate social responsibility has to be taken seriously. Even there is no law as such for CSR, but there is a risk that if CSR is not being followed, these things can happen. Okay, so what we can do in our business, CSR business activities. What do we do in an organization? CSR business activities generally include the following. We establish policies and procedures. We communicate such policies and procedures to our employees not to waste dump in the river, not to discharge or throw away hazardous material on outside the company. It has to be treated first. Policies and procedures. We set objectives. We set goals of CSR, what we want to achieve. We want to reduce our accidents by 50% next year. We want to bring in the health and safety equipment so as to protect our employees. We will buy new machinery that will reduce our emission by 70%. These are the objectives. So you will set your objectives, goals, strategies, how you can become more responsible socially. Then you also have to monitor that you have taken certain decisions, certain policies and procedures were set up. What is the final result? How have we performed over the last year? Has there been a reduction in the emission levels? Are there less accidents over the last year? Are employees happy? Are customers getting better quality for the money they are paying us? Right? Engaging stakeholders. We are not just for shareholders only. We are for bankers, customers, suppliers, vendors, fund providers, society, employees, people who are somehow connected to us. So we need to engage with our stakeholders. We might conduct surveys to see how people view us. And then a very helpful way, auditing. There is a CSR audit where we conduct audit to see how many accidents occurred, what were the reasons, You need to disclose public information, what has happened over the period. So auditing, CSR audit is also part of it. And then finally, internal and external reporting on CSR. What we have done over the last year, how much money did we spend on environment, which machinery did we buy to reduce our pollution levels, and etc. and etc. So these are the activities in a business for CSR. Next, evaluating and auditing CSR. This is our job. How do we evaluate and audit the corporate social CSR in an organization? So as we have agreed that internal auditors, we are not responsible for designing, drafting and implementation of system of CSR. It is the job of the management. So our job is to remain independent. Our job is to remain objective. We can advise, yes. We can facilitate. But I'm telling you, we must not be assuming a role of owners of any process. We can advise, yes, facilitation is fine. If we can advise and facilitate and our independence is not impaired, fine. Right? All right. So we as internal auditors, we can advise, consult. We have to maintain our independence and objectivity. Right? So, same thing. We can provide advice, we can provide facilitation, we can give consultation, but the point is we must not compromise our independence, we must not compromise our objectivity. So what is the role for us, for internal auditors? We will evaluate the criteria of CSR and we will compare what was the criteria, what was the benchmark, ISO 14,000 or 26,000 or companies on CSR, and how well the company has performed. How internal controls are supporting CSR. What are the steps taken by the management to ensure that the CSR objectives are met, and to what extent the CSR objectives have been met regarding environment, regarding accidents, regarding creating social equality, right? So we will discuss this COSO model inshallah next lecture. So evaluating criteria like COSO, like ISO 26,000, like GRI, and comparing these, as we can see how well an organization has done. And the chief audit executive, the head of internal audit department, he will compare the CSR maturity level, that where does the organization stand? Is it at a basic level, initial level, or has it progressed and optimized to a higher level? We will discuss this in our next lecture. In our next unit, we will have detailed COSO model, COSO risk management. All these will be coming in detail inshallah our next lecture. So we will perform auditing in two different approaches as internal auditors. The common approaches to auditing CSR is auditing by elements and auditing by stakeholders. What does it mean, auditing by elements? Elements means separate audits for each element, like governance is audited separately, communication, investments, environment, etc. We'll discuss these one by one. So auditing by elements and auditing by stakeholders. Let us first discuss auditing by element. Separate audits for each element is performed. Governance audit we discussed in our previous lecture yesterday. It's not a single engagement, it's a result of many engagements. Governance means, do the board of directors, do they have sufficient information to fulfill their roles regarding CSR? Do the board know that animal testing is not allowed in Pakistan, or if it is allowed, we are deliberately not testing medicine on animal because we find it unethical? So do board members have sufficient and relevant information? What is the role and responsibility of the board of directors? Community, those who are affected by our decision. How much money has our company donated in philanthropic activities? And in which areas do we donated money or gave some charity to some NGOs or some social causes? So how much effort was made for community? This is the second element for our CSR audit. Third, environment. What we have done to improve the environment? How much waste did we discharge in the river or in the air? Did we violate any law, environmental law? Right? Ethics. Is the code of ethics in place? how employees are behaving in actual workplace compared with the code of ethics, how the company's policies and procedures are providing a reasonable assurance that employees are behaving ethically, to what extent the employees are following the code of ethics in letter and spirit, health, safety and security, number of accidents last year, how many number of accidents were reported, what was the financial consequence of these accidents. This is the fifth element of auditing for CSR. Transparency. Does organization follow any accounting standard for CSR reporting? And finally, the most important one, working conditions. Are the working conditions reasonable for the workers to work? Temperature, humidity, noise levels. Is the compensation fair? Are employees being provided opportunity for career growth? Are the wages sufficient that they can meet their needs? So this is what you call the auditing by elements. We see these 7 elements and we conduct auditing in these 7 areas. Then auditing by stakeholders. When we say stakeholders, it means our customers, suppliers, employees, environment, shareholders, etc. So auditing by stakeholders, customers. Do we provide safe and reliable products and services? It means customers should be happy. Employees. Do we have some HR manual where we prohibit any discrimination, any harassment, sexual harassment, any unfair dismissal, right? Being socially responsible. Environment. Do we conduct environmental impact assessment regularly? Do we measure our waste dumped in the river or in the air? Do we breach any limits set by the local regulators? Neighboring. Do we provide any benefit for the local community? Have we constructed any school or mosque or any recreational facility for the community where we are operating? Suppliers. Do we pay our suppliers on time? Are the terms of providing services or goods is fair? Are the rates justified? So these are what's called the auditing by stakeholders. Now, reporting corporate social responsibility. CSR. How do we report CSR? Before we draft a CSR, we must see the cost of reporting versus the benefit of reporting. Of course, it takes time and money and effort to prepare a report on social responsibility. And what are the expected benefit to be drawn from CSR? So cost versus benefit must be seen. So cost versus benefit of CSR, reporting cost and the benefit from the report, what information to include, verification and assurance process, and finally, what are the reporting methods? Will we provide the corporate social responsibility report on the web pages? Will it be provided through press releases or regulatory filings? Because there has to be some, like financial statements are printed on the web pages, are also printed in booklets form. They're also printed on the newspapers also, in regulatory filings also. So how do you think CSR report is to be disseminated? On the internet, to booklets or press releases? So guys, that's all about your corporate social responsibility. Totally. So web pages, booklets, press releases, regulatory filings, and then your unit 3 is over.